Hi Amelie. Today I want to read you Mr. Seahorse by Carle. Here's Mr. and Mrs. Seahorse. Mr. and Mrs. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea. Mrs. Seahorse began to wiggle and twist this way and that. There's Mrs. Seahorse, and there's Mr. Seahorse. It's time for me to lay my eggs, she said. Can I help? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Oh yes, thank you, said Mrs. Seahorse, and she laid her eggs into a pouch on Mr. Seahorse's belly. I'll take good care of our eggs, said Mrs. Seahorse. I promise. So there they are. You're going to take good care of the eggs. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by... Let's take a look. Do you see all the grass? They're trumpeter fish hidden in a bed of reeds. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. How are you, Mr. Stickleback? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Delighted, replied Mr. Stickleback. I just built a nest, and right away, Mrs. Stickleback laid her eggs into it. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch. Keep up the good work, said Mr. Seahorse, and swam away. There we are. There's Mr. Stickleback with his nest of eggs right there. As Mr. Seahorse drifted along through the sea, he passed right by... Looky here. See, there's some coral. A lionfish hidden in some coral reef. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. How are you, Mr. Tilapia? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Mr. Tilapia couldn't answer. His mouth was full of eggs. I know, said Mr. Seahorse. Mrs. Tilapia has laid her eggs. Now you are taking good care of them until they hatch. Mr. Tilapia nodded his head. You must be very happy, said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. See, there we are. There's Mr. Tilapia with all the eggs in his mouth. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by. Look at the seaweed. And a pair of leaf fish hidden in the seaweed. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. How are you, Mr. Curtis? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Perfectly fine, replied Mr. Curtis. Mrs. Curtis laid her eggs, and I have stuck them on my head. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch. You are doing a good job, said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. Looky here. This was a seahorse upside down, and Mr. Curtis there with the eggs on top of his head right there. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by... Look, there's a big rock. And it's a stonefish hidden behind a rock. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. How are you, Mr. Pipe? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Couldn't be better, replied Mr. Pipe. Now Mrs. Pipe laid her eggs along my belly. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch. You should feel proud of yourself, said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. Here we are. And there's Mr. Pipefish with all the eggs on his belly. And then a really big-bellied Mr. Seahorse. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. How are you, Mr. Bullhead? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Tip-top, replied Mr. Bullhead. Mrs. Bullhead laid her eggs, and the eggs hatched. Now I am babysitting. You are doing a fine job, said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. See, there we are. There's Mr. Bullhead and all of his babies. The time had come for the seahorse babies to be born. Mr. Seahorse wiggled and twisted this way and that. At last the babies tumbled from Mr. Seahorse's pouch and swam away. One baby turned around and tried to come back into the pouch. Oh no, said Mr. Seahorse, I do love you, but now you are ready to be on your own. There they all are. And there's the one that wanted to go back. And there they are, swimming away. That's the end of the story. The end. I love you very much, Amelie, and I look forward to reading you another story, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.